So what are these Western pagan beliefs? Well, according to the Pocket Dictionary of New Religious Movements, there's over 400 different examples. But we'll just give you the most popular ones today. Now, the first one is Wicca, which obviously, as Dan was talking about, was founded by Gerald Gardner. Now, however, in 1951, being called a witch was no longer a crime. And so what Gardner decided to do was make 2 books about witchcraft as a religious system. He obviously believed in witchcraft itself. He believed that the traditional understanding of it is wrong and evil. And they believe in gender equality, so no gender roles. And they believe that the witchcraft is like a nature religion, a healing nature seeking the good of all. However, despite this, they are inspired by an infamous occultist called Aleister Crowley. Gardner was introduced to him by Arnold in 1947, and he joined Crowley's OTO, which is Oreo Templis Orientis, and was promoted to 4th degree. If we have a look at the Wiccan Reed, it says, do what you want and don't harm anyone. Well, Crowley's maxim says, do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. So you can definitely see a heavy inspiration on Crowley. It is also one of the most fastest growing religions in the West, according to a 2001 survey. And obviously one of the culprits here is Harry Potter, which was also released in 2001. The book contains Wiccan philosophy, such as Rowling's magic versus Muggle dichotomy. It quotes directly from a Wiccan author called Sylvan Ravenwolf. And not only this, her publisher, Ellen Wynne, is also mentioned in the books as the name of the hospital ward for healing the sick. And children became interested in Wicca so much that the Pagan Federation, which is a well-organized promoter of Wicca witchcraft, started receiving a flood of inquiries about the details of their religion, and they attributed it to the success of the Harry Potter books. Now, the second one I'll talk about is the Order of the Golden Dawn, which was founded by 3 Freemasons, 33rd degree, which is the highest rank of Freemasonry. It is literally, by definition, a secret magic ritual society that was founded in London in 1888, and it played a key role in promoting modern neo-paganism and ritual magic. They believed in a mix of magical philosophies such as Freemasonry, Kabbalah, and Egyptian. They also, like Wicca, believed in sexual equality and no gender roles. They believed in magic, astrology, tarot, and meditation, and how tarot could show insights on how the magical persona could be tempered and improved upon. And they did this by drawing together different magical beliefs from different sources and assembled them together to an effective system of mystical and magical philosophy. Now, how have they influenced culture? Well, they not only inspired Wicca, but they also inspired Aleister Crowley. So much they became an Order of the Golden Dawn based on his own religion. And famous icon David Bowie was also inspired by Aleister Crowley and his involvement in the Golden Dawn. So much he actually references this in his song Quicksand, which the album reached number 3 in the top charts in the UK in 1972. And he said, quote, "My overriding interest was that of Kabbalah and Crowleyism, that whole dark, rather fearsome netherworld of the wrong side of the brain." So who is this Crowley? This is where I get to my next.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
I'll just do that for now. This is where I get to my next religion, which is Thelema, which is founded by Aleister Crowley, who was an English occultist, philosopher, magician, and poet. He was born in 1875 and died in 47. He started his journey in Egypt when he encountered Iwas, a messenger of Horus, telling him to write the Book of the Law and guiding him what to say. He became an expert in a dozen or so varieties of Hindu and Buddhist yoga and experimented with more drugs than anyone in the West before the 1960s of the revolution. His belief was basically to do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, which is, in modern times, do what you want. He also believed to grow up in the law of Thelema under the enlightened guidance of the Master Therion. Now, who is the Master Therion? Well, at the end of his book, he literally says the Master Therion is 666, which is a bit weird. He also himself believed that he was the great beast 666. And this is actually stated by multiple of his followers, such as Wardell Pomeroy, the founder of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, and the famous Phineas Singh. He also believed that the number 11 was the number of magic itself, that it was the number of excellence and who are of the believers. And we can definitely see this in Harry Potter, where Harry Potter actually turned 11th when he found out he was a wizard. You also find out that the wand that actually suited him and connected with him was also 11 inches long. So we see this 11 number. He also believed that K was the 11th number of the alphabet, so he added it in. We can see this inspiration actually in Star Wars, where they actually used Crowley's magic to represent the dark side of the Force of the Night Sisters. We also see it in Red Hot Chili Peppers' album called Sex Magic with a K. And obviously they influenced culture big time with the Beatles, where they literally said the whole Beatles idea was to do what thou will, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. So you definitely see a Wiccan philosophy there. And here's a clip.
I don't think Indian spirituality and things like that were an everyday part of Western culture. It was entirely the hippies, thanks to the Beatles, who decided to, go to India and, discover yoga and meditation. Now we all have yoga on every corner. There was never anything like that before they came along.
They really wanted a spiritual revolution, a transformation.
It was time for a generation to assert themselves. And this is the revolution that the Beatles caused.
So that was that. So obviously, like the Beatles, they also inspired Led Zeppelin. They inspired the Rolling Stones, Jay-Z, the Jonas Brothers, Marilyn Manson in his book The Long Hard Road Out of Hell. He quotes the teaching. Spice Girls as well, where they say things like make your own rules to live by. So it inspired quite a lot of people. And this is where I get to my next interesting pagan religion, which is called Theosophy, which is founded by H.P. Blavatsky, who was a Russian occultist. Her belief, according to her teachings, that many of the world's religions have their origins in an ancient universal religion called a secret doctrine. She promoted the idea that these ancient societies had this unity of science and religion that humanity had since lost. And but in a Theosophical magazine, Lucifer, she admitted that Lucifer, or the light bearer, is our tempter, redeemer, intelligent liberator, and saviour from pure animalism. And she stated that this ancient religion would be revived and spread throughout humanity in the future, replacing dominant world religions such as Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Theosophy also tended to emphasize the importance of ancient texts over popular religious traditions. Now, how have they influenced culture? Well, they actually influenced the United Nations, who are heavily influenced by a former leader called Benjamin Creme, who would often speak there. And he had a magazine called Share International. In fact, former Secretary General Kofi Annan wrote an article on the Share International magazine, along with other world leaders. He also inspired Elvis Presley. Steve Donnelly mentioned that Elvis would often get up in his acts, in performances, and start reading things to the audience. Particularly in one night in Las Vegas, he read Blavatsky's voice and insisted that a guy called Don Rickles would read passages from it. Ooh. Now the final one and the most impactful is the New Age, which obviously was debated whether it's a new religious movement, but obviously it's also debated that it is a neo-pagan belief. This is also founded by Lester Crowley and H.P. Blavatsky. And Crowley was known as the father of the New Age, while Blavatsky was known as the godmother of the New Age movement. So obviously, what is their beliefs? Well, Crowley believed it was called the New Eon, which is, I believe, Greek for age. And he says that this age of Horus, how it will develop, is how the child will grow up. These for us to determine. So we can see this do what thou wilt in there again. Growing up in ourselves the way of the law of Thelema and the enlightened guidance of the Master Therion. He also said that you have to acknowledge the authority of the beast, 666, and you must accept the crown and conquering child as the lord of the eon. And how this influenced culture? Well, obviously it revolutionized the 1960s. A British journalist called Gavin Badali said it is easy to see how a Crowleyite interprets this age of Horus as the eon of Horus predicted by Crowley. A lot of people were doing what they wanted. He continued and said it was now a common practice among many young people, and that Crowley's dictum that the key to joyous obedience was declared not only as the eon of Horus, but the eon was Lucifer. Elvis Presley even claimed that his mission was to influence people in the spiritual world using the voice that was guiding him. And his close friend Larry Geller admitted that Elvis named his gospel group Voice after his occult magazine New Age Voice. And he said someday he couldn't wait till the New Age comes, and that the so-called ministers of God watch as their old ways start crumbling. Which is interesting. And his close friend Geller said that these new attitudes he believed were sown during the 1960s and had taken root in the last 2 decades and blossomed. Psychologist Timothy Leary, a big part of the influence of the 60s, said that the Beatles were the thought evangelists. And obviously the influence culture today, such as the biggest clothing brand ASOS, as he said, it's for the coming new age. And they quote Crowley as their do what you want, sex with who you want, marry who you want. So it's a massive, massive influence today. And so this new paganism has really kind of set in culture, and it's spread everywhere. So it's very influential to the culture.